and we are dealing with women of Israel's heroic age, better known today as sheroes. And I want to tell you right out the gate that I am going to mess this name up. I have tried to Google it 1,000 times today to say it right, but then it's just not coming out right. So there are a few references to the daughters of Zelophehad in the Bible, and yet they are responsible for the historical change and rules regarding inheritance laws when there is no son to carry the name of the deceased man. The story goes like this. Zelophehad died without having a son to continue his name. As a result, his daughters are not able to receive their father's portion of the promised land because he had no son. Depending on his heirs receiving land in his name, they realize that their current law is not adequate. But it does not take into account the unusual circumstances of a man without sons. You can read about them in Numbers 26 and 28. As I studied this more, the bold achievement of the daughters was a landmark of in women's rights regarding the inheritance of the land, and it moves forward for such a time as now. These women changed the laws for them to inherit their father's land. So this is how it is even today. From those days up to now, in addition, however, the story of these 5 women offers a compelling lesson for all those who believe that their destiny is fixed or that divine justice has abandoned them. It encourages us to think differently, and it provides a message of hope for those faced with obstacles. In this story, their law collides with the evolving needs of the society and the reaction of the daughters. We find, one, that God's law is not static, an example of how change occurs, and perhaps what is expected of us is growing to be partners with God. So, I'm going to Hannah. 3 of the women that I have was the daughters, Hannah, and also I have Miriam. But Hannah had made a promise to God that if she bore a son, she would give him back to God's servant. Hannah followed through on that promise. She handed her young child Samuel over to Eli for training as a priest. God blessed Hannah further for honoring her pledge to him. She bore 3 more sons and 2 daughters. Samuel grew up to become the last of Israel's judges, its first prophet and counselor to its first 2 kings, Saul and David. I'm going to tell you Hannah's strength. Hannah was perseverant. Even though God was silent throughout the time that she was barren, her promises didn't stop her from being and continuing to be perseverant and praying and fasting towards her request for a child for many years. She never stopped praying. Sometimes